They broke onto my private yacht, threw a wild party, and live-streamed the whole thing thinking I'd never find out. But what the Karen sisters didn't know was that I had military-grade tracking, remote controls, and cameras on every inch of that boat, so I waited. I watched, and when they drifted far enough into open sea, I hit one button and cut the engines. No power, no signal, just panic. They went from champagne and selfies to sunburns and seasickness in minutes. The Coast Guard found them hours later, humiliated and banned from every marina in town. They tried to sue me, spin the story, even start a GoFund, but the internet saw the truth in me. I just went sailing, because out here on my boat, you don't trespass without consequences. It started on a Saturday morning just before sunrise, when the sky was still painted in sleepy pastels and the harbor lay calm like a giant sheet of glass. Except something was off. My yacht, the Sea Sovereign, wasn't where it should have been, which was an immediate red flag because I always dock her in the exact same spot, right at slip 27 on Pier C, tied down and secured with commercial-grade padlocks, with 3 security cameras trained on her at all times. She wasn't just a boat, she was my pride, my escape, and a reminder of everything I had built with my own 2 hands after retiring from the Navy and launching a successful maritime consulting firm. So when I stepped out onto my deck that morning, sipping black coffee and planning a quiet day of tuning the engines and cleaning the tick floors, and noticed the empty slip, my brain couldn't compute for a second. I thought maybe I was groggy, maybe the tides were high and I just couldn't see her. But then I spotted a top champagne cork floating by. Then a plastic stiletto heel lodged between the planks of the dock, followed by a gold sequin scarf tangled in the railing. That's when it hit me. The Karen sisters, Brittany and Tiffany Halloway, aged 32 and 35, blonde, botoxed, self-appointed HOA queens of the neighboring upscale subdivision, known for their social media antics, entitled behavior, and complete disregard for personal boundaries. I had crossed paths with them before once, when they accused my dock lights of violating aesthetic tranquility, and again when they filed a noise complaint because the wind had supposedly carried obnoxious seagulls squawking from my pier onto their waterfront patio. They were the kind of people who built their personalities around confrontation and court threats. A few weeks ago, I overheard them gossiping at the Marina Cafe about wanting to throw a nautical-themed yacht bash to boost engagement, but I thought they were just being their usual obnoxious performative selves. Never in 1,000 years did I think they'd be stupid or arrogant enough to actually break onto my boat. But there was no doubt now. I sprinted back to my house, nearly tripping over my dog ranger, and logged into the boat's surveillance system from my tablet. Sure enough, at exactly 11:48 p.m. the night before, the footage showed the Karen sisters in all their glitter-drenched wine-slurred glory, stumbling down the dock with a group of equally vapid friends and 2 guys who looked like they got lost on their way to a bad EDM festival. Brittany was wearing a tiara. Tiffany was waving around a Bluetooth speaker blasting some remix of Girls Just Wanna Have Fun. They came equipped with bolt cutters, popped the lock like they'd done it before, and boarded the Sea Sovereign like she was some kind of party barge. I sat there, seething, as I watched them pop champagne, draped feather boas over my navigation gear, and start live streaming to their 80,000 Instagram followers. Oh my god, yacht vibes only, Tiffany yelled, sloshing Rose on my leather helm seat. Someone jumped off the bow into the water and tried to climb back up using my polished brass rails. Another guy was smoking on the upper deck, smoking while sitting on my emergency life raft. I don't know how long I sat watching the carnage unfold, but when I saw one of them throw a sequined handbag overboard because it didn't match the aesthetic, I knew I couldn't let this slide. Still, I didn't call the cops yet. See, the Sea Sovereign isn't just a luxury yacht. I built her with tech that most people would never notice. GPS tracking synced to a military-grade satellite system, remote engine access, motion sensor alarms, and my personal favorite, the ability to disable the engine remotely through an encrypted app. I'd designed for testing stealth recovery protocols. I didn't want to confront them at the dock. That would be easy. I wanted them to learn. Really, learn. And the ocean is a fantastic teacher. I checked the GPS. As of 5:43 a.m., the yacht was cruising lazily 6.3 nautical miles off the coast, heading east into deeper water, well past where most rental boats or paddleboarders venture. I grabbed my phone, hit the app, and disabled the engines. In an instant, the Sea Sovereign went dead. The only power left was auxiliary, no throttle, no lights, no engine, no anchor. Just wind, water, and slowly growing panic. I opened the onboard mic. It activated the external speakers, and I couldn't resist. "Good morning," I said, voice calm as a submarine captain. "This is the owner of the vessel you've trespassed upon. The party is now over." Screams, actual screams. Brittany dropped her phone into a bucket of sangria. Tiffany tripped over her own heels and hit her forehead on the helm. One of the guys yelled, "Is this a prank?" and tried the throttle lever to no avail. I watched from my screen as the realization dawned they were stranded. I muted the mic and poured myself another cup of coffee. The sun had just cleared the horizon, and from where I sat, The air was still and peaceful. I watched them scramble, argue, slap each other's hands away from the radio, and finally dig around for the emergency satellite phone, which I had disabled weeks ago after realizing most emergencies were just me misplacing my coffee mug. As they drifted farther out, the waves began to rock the boat, and seasickness set in. Tiffany leaned over the side and hurled what looked like a dozen shrimp cocktails into the sea. The Instagram live feed had cut out 20 minutes ago when they lost signal, and now their followers were spamming the comments asking if this was an escape room event. Around 9 a.m. the Coast Guard called. I knew the number. Officer Ramirez. Hey, we've got a report of your yacht adrift with some very loud occupants aboard. They're claiming it's a malfunction. You aware of this? Very aware, I said calmly. The boat was stolen from my private dock last night. I have video footage, and I'm pressing charges. Got it, Ramirez replied with a sigh. We'll pick them up. You want them dropped off at the marina or the station? Whichever one has holding cells, I replied. At 11:20 a.m. I walked down to the pier just in time to see the Sea Sovereign being towed back in. Karen's sisters stood on deck, wrapped in thermal blankets, hair ruined, makeup melted, their once sparkly dresses clinging to their legs like wet seaweed. They looked like raccoons after a storm. As soon as they spotted me, Tiffany yelled, "You can't do this to us. We have influence." Brittany added, "We're gonna sue you for emotional distress and false imprisonment." I just smiled. You trespassed. You stole a vessel. You broke maritime law, and you left glitter on my control panel. Officer Ramirez stepped in before things escalated. The police took their statements, then mine. I handed over the surveillance footage, and within an hour, both sisters were facing charges for unlawful entry, unauthorized use of a watercraft, and reckless endangerment. But the punishment didn't stop there. Every marina in the region issued a ban. Their HOA board voted to suspend them for conduct unbecoming, and their follow account dropped by 10,000 overnight once the footage leaked. Oh yes, I uploaded the entire event, edited and enhanced with subtitles, drone shots, and dramatic music, to my YouTube channel titled Ocean Justice, Karen Party Adrift. Within 2 days it hit 3.5 million views. The comments were glorious. Never mess with a Navy vet's boat. This is the most satisfying thing I've ever watched. I'd watch this in theaters. Brittany tried DMing me an apology disguised as a PR opportunity. Let's collab to make it positive, she wrote. I replied with a link to the Coast Guard's Unauthorized Boating Consequences pamphlet. The moral of the story is simple. You can wear glitter, scream about followers, and pretend you own the ocean, but if you mess with the Sea Sovereign, you better be ready to drift. 3 weeks after the incident, life had returned to a comforting rhythm, or at least it tried to. Arena was quieter, the water seemed calmer, and every stroll past Slip 27 reminded me not of outrage or violation, but of justice and sweet vindication. Still, if I thought the Karen sisters would take their defeat quietly, I had grossly underestimated the power of online delusion and ego. They didn't just double down, they went full viral martyr. First came the sob story video Brittany posted on their shared influencer page, titled in dramatic white font, "Left to Die at CAR Truth." I nearly spit out my coffee when I saw it. Shot on an iPhone with overly shaky hands, the video featured Brittany in fake tears, Tiffany behind her pretending to hyperventilate, both wearing matching pastel robes and sitting under a giant sign that read "Hope plus Healing." They called me a violent boat vigilante, claimed they were lured out to sea, and accused me of hacking their phones and locking them in a floating prison. The best part, they edited out every single frame of them breaking in, partying, or destroying my property conveniently, leaving only the few seconds when I announced over the speaker that the party was over and that they were being reported. I chuckled, because even bad liars need an audience, and judging by the comments flooding in, aren't y'all the ones who broke into his boat? And this is literally the most Karen video I've ever seen. Their audience wasn't buying it within 24 hours. YouTube flagged the video for misinformation, but that didn't stop them. Tiffany launched a GoFundMe titled Legal Justice for the Yacht Survivors, asking for $50,000 in legal and therapy costs. By the end of the week, they'd raised exactly $137.42, and half the comments were just people asking if the boat was still accepting party reservations. While they scrambled to rewrite history, I was contacted by Wavy 10 News, a popular local station known for spotlighting quirky justice stories. They wanted to do a full segment on the Sea Sovereign, her onboard tech, and the remarkable way a retired Navy engineer taught to HOA queens a lesson in boundaries. I agreed. The anchor, Danette Morrison, showed up with a small crew, a voice recorder, and a coffee in each hand. She interviewed me at the helm, asked about the incident, my reaction, the app I designed, and what went through my mind when I disabled the yacht's systems remotely. I kept my tone calm and factual, didn't trash talk the sisters, didn't showboat. I just explained that property is sacred, the ocean is unforgiving, and sometimes consequences float. The segment aired the following Friday and quickly spread across social media. But the moment that sealed the sisters' fate came near the end of the broadcast, when the camera zoomed in on the glitter still stuck in my control panel, sparkling evidence of the night in question. The news crew even included a split screen of the sisters' Instagram footage before it was deleted, showing them pouring sangria into my compass housing. From that moment, the court of public opinion slammed its gavel. Brittany and Tiffany became local pariahs overnight. Their influence collapsed faster than their mascara on open water. 3 brand sponsors dropped them within 48 hours. Their HOA, where they had ruled with an iron clipboard and a passive-aggressive newsletter called an emergency vote. The board unanimously suspended them from any leadership role and barred them from attending meetings for a full year. A new HOA chair was elected, a sweet woman named Janice, who waved at me the next day while walking her beagle past my cottage and said, "About time someone turned the tide on those two." Meanwhile, I took full advantage of the peace. The Sea Sovereign got an upgrade. I installed thermal imaging sensors, biometric handprint locks, motion-triggered alarms that sent real-time alerts to my phone, and a camera drone that could hover at 20 feet and track unauthorized movement on board. Ranger, my loyal old dog, got a fresh nautical life vest and a new habit of patrolling the dock with a suspicious sniff every time someone passed by. The sisters predictably weren't finished trying to claw back relevance. About 10 days after the broadcast aired, I received a letter official looking but poorly formatted from a third-tier law firm in town. The letter accused me of reckless endangerment, defamation by technological entrapment, and intentional emotional trauma inflicted via marine abandonment. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my sandwich. I forwarded the letter to my actual attorney, a grizzled legal shark named Kelly Barnes who'd once won a case while undergoing kidney surgery. She called me 20 minutes later just to say, "Tell them to try it." I'd love to cross-examine someone who live-streamed their own crime. The sisters never followed through. The law firm ghosted me the minute Kelly filed a preliminary response filled with exact timestamps, GPS data, and federal maritime codes. It was over. But the funniest twist of all came one morning while I was fueling up at the main dock, chatting with a few fellow boaters about engine upgrades, when one of the harbor staff strolled by shaking his head and chuckling. "Hey," he said, "you see what Brittany and Tiffany are doing now?" I hadn't. He pulled out his phone, opened their latest post and showed me. The caption read, "Land yacht vibes only, bringing luxury to the pavement." And it showed the sisters sitting in the back of a broken-down stretch Hummer parked behind a strip mall, sipping wine out of mason jars next to a kiddie pool and inflatable palm trees. They had reinvented themselves as land yacht lifestyle coaches. I nearly fell off the dock laughing. Their comment section was a minefield of ridicule. From open sea to open parking lot, what a journey, one user wrote. You sunk your own brand harder than the Titanic, another added. One person even created a parody page called the Paddlers Camp. Despite their fall from online grace, the Karen sisters never apologized. Not publicly, not privately. The closest they came was a backhanded DM from Brittany that read, "It's sad how some people can't take a joke. Maybe we should collab and turn it into a funny video series. Just message me." I didn't reply. Instead, I blocked her and uploaded one final video to my channel. It was a calm, poetic drone montage of the Sea Sovereign cutting across the waves at sunset, with a voiceover that simply said, "Some people rent adventure, others own it, but no one borrows without asking." It got 1 million views in 4 days. I returned to my normal schedule. Sunrise maintenance on the yacht, sunset rides along the coastline. Ranger curled at my feet while I listened to the quiet hum of the ocean. Sometimes I took friends out, veterans, neighbors, even Janice from the HOA board, who brought fresh-baked muffins and wore a captain's hat that barely fit. We toasted 2 good decisions, good dogs, and better boundaries. One Sunday evening, I passed by the same stretch of open water where I had let the sisters drift that infamous morning. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting the water in molten gold. I slowed the yacht, stared out into the silence, and imagined them standing there, that day, heels wobbling, lip gloss running, confusion blooming into panic. I let the moment sit for a while. Then I whispered, "Party's still over, Karens," and pushed the throttle forward. The Sea Sovereign roared to life and sliced through the water like a knife through silk. Because out here, on my boat, on my time, the ocean answers to me.